Hi, it's Therese from Lostinpaper and I'm back with my Cards for Men series, and I've got this stamp set called Le Chat from Katz. It's a European stamp company, has some great cat images and a lot of them would work really well on any masculine designs. So these are a red rubber stamp and I've cut out the actual image that I want to use. And then I've mounted it onto a clear block, and this block actually has a layer of tack and peel on it, so that means I can actually add the stamp and peel it away and use it more like a clear stamp. It works really well, better than having to mount all your stamps onto that cling mount, and much easier for storage too. So I'm going to be colouring with my Prismacolor pencils, and I did actually stamp this out with some Tuxedo black. I've been doing so much watercolouring and Copic colouring lately. I thought it's about time I got my Prismacolors out and had some fun with those. So I do vary it up a bit. Usually, depending on the image, I actually often start with my darker colours to add my shadows and things like that. But this image has a lot of the shadows, because it's sort of sketchy, has a lot of the shadows and everything already there for me. So what I did was actually start with my highlights and use my lighter colour. I don't always blend out each colour as I add it either. What I often do is something like this, where I add quite a variety of colours and just actually get some colour down on my image. Then I blend, and then I'll add more colour and add shading and add more depth where I think it's needed. I find as I'm adding the Gamsol, it can actually take some of the colour away, but that's okay because I can always add more again afterwards. So of course I'm going to list all the colours that I use over at my blog, and I will put the link down in the YouTube description below. But really they're just a mix of sort of creams and like sort of ochre colours, and then a couple of dark browns. So you could use whatever colours that you have and just have a play. So I just keep some scratch paper beside me so I can just test the colours, because sometimes the pencils aren't exactly the colour that they look on the outside. Not quite as bad as markers, but usually they're a little bit more accurate than markers. So I'm just going to finish colouring this cat now, and using my Gamsol with blending stump to blend the colours. I am not being too fussy about the edges of the image, because I know that I'm going to be cutting this out right up to the edge. So if my colouring does go over the edge, I'm not going to let that bother me. So I'll be right back when all the colouring and the fussy cutting is done. So I've got a piece of design paper here from a crate paper pad called Flea Market. It is an older paper pad, and I'm literally just going to stamp my image again down in the bottom right corner, and then I can attach this to the front of a top fold card. And the finished size of this card is 15 by 10.5 centimeters, and just using my ATG gun to do that with. And luckily I checked that card, it was facing the wrong way. I've got my Tombow glue to adhere my cat down over top of the stamped image, and that way all my little whiskers and everything are behind the cat and I don't have to try and draw them in. My sentiment is going to be a speech bubble, so I've got some black smooth cardstock and I've already cut it out. It's a penny black speech bubble from the chat bubble set, and I've prepped my cardstock with the powder tool and stamping a sentiment from Good Times. This is a Mama Elephant stamp set, and then I can just heat emboss this with some white embossing powder. And because this is actually a small image, I don't want to burn my fingers. I could actually stick this down to a piece of cardstock and do it, but I've got these tweezers and I can just hold the image far enough away from the heat tool that I don't actually burn my fingers. And then I can just pop the sentiment up on the front of the card, and I've used some black foam tape for that. And that's my finished card for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back again real soon. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.